I lost my place. Hello. I opened it at the right page and then I closed it by accident. And this is part 2. Okay. We are in the chapter of the 30 tribes. And this is a Scarlet Feather. It's written by Joan Grant. She lived in 1907 till 1989. She was a far seer and she wrote her memories. She was known as an author, but we know that these are her own memories. She is Piyannah. Piyannah and Raki are members of a tribe, but they are a little bit outcasts because Piyannah's mother had other ideas for her children. Well, for her daughter really. Raki is her cousin. Her mother has passed away. This is a tribe from thousands of years ago, somewhere in the west, it says here. And they want to form a new tribe, which will be able to break the bounds of superstition and tradition that have affected the old tribes. To become new chiefs of the new tribe, however, Raki must live the life of a young squaw and Piyannah must pass all the tests of a young brave. We are now, I think it's the 20th reading or so, part 2 of the chapter of the 30 tribes. These tribes, they meet, I think, every 7 years. And they have got to know the various tribes. There's many of them. And they are astounded about the very different looks of the people and the very different languages different tribes are speaking. How some of them are very round and some of them very thin. This is all in the previous chapter. They had brought some other scalps with them, and these were passed round from hand to hand while the audience made noises of admiration or respect. The scalps had red hair and were so old that the skin was hard as wood. They were supposed to have been taken from very dangerous enemies who came out of the sunset in long canoes more than 500 years ago and had the power of turning themselves into fish and escaping by river when pursued. We listened to every storyteller in turn, hoping that one of them would have news of the before people. We heard of courage and cunning, endurance and even laughter, but of the wisdom we sought, we found nothing. There were the legends of the morning of the world, the same legends as our own, but with decorations that made them fit into the pattern of a different tribal lore. And the story of the first man and the first woman we heard again from a tribe of the southwest who made pottery finer than any I had ever seen. Even Minshuk would have had to admit it, that it was better than any he could make. The last storyteller we heard belonged to the people from the south, whom we had seen on our first evening. They were called the Smiling Valleys, and their stories were quite different from the rest. In one, the hero enjoyed sitting in the sun, having found a magical tree which dropped ripe fruit into his mouth whenever he opened it. In another, a woman was beguiled by a fire spirit who, in recognition of the pleasure she had afforded him, gave her a magic cooking pot, which was always full of food, so pleasing to the men that they were never discontented. Henceforth she had no need to work and could lie drowsing in the shade so long as she never brushed away the fly which settled on her forehead every 7 days. The fly was sent by the fire spirit to remind her that if she forgot to be grateful to him, he would ask Great Fly to send a buzzing, biting sound that would make it impossible for her to sleep even for an instant. It was a happy story, for the woman put a drop of honey on her forehead for the fly. So Great Fly was grateful for this courtesy to his people and told them not to trouble her, any of her tribe, even in the hot weather. Afterwards, Raki and I took to one of the Smiling Valleys. We were the only stranger at their watchfire, perhaps because everyone else preferred to hear of killing and scalps and blood. Some of his words were different from ours, but not sufficiently to make it difficult to understand the meaning. They were all very willing to talk about their own country, which lay 70 days' journey to the south. Not were they ashamed to admit that they too were awed at seeing so many strangers at one time in one place, which made us feel even more friendly towards them. I knew Raki shared my excitement as we listened. They could not tell us about the before people, but they had news which was equally important to our future. They never saw snow, except on the mountains which sheltered them from the north. Their land was so fertile that they could grow 3 crops in the same year, and fish were so plentiful in their rivers that a hunter need not kill unless he felt inclined. They were proud of their leisure, proud of the smiling weather and their fertile earth, as we were proud that we could challenge the winter and live through the long moons of the cold on the food we had spent the summer storing, as a bear stores fat for its winter sleep. There were no scarlet feathers amongst them, but instead of being ashamed, they laughed and said, "Why should a man risk death for no reason when life is pleasant?" They were glad that their bodies were not lean and hard. "Is not fat hind preferable to a starveling?" they asked. "And does not a wood pigeon with full crop make a more comfortable sound than a hungry jay?" Instead of boasting of the deeds of their braves, they told us with pride that the son of their chief made a new fish trap, which was much less trouble to look after than any previously built, and yet caught the same number of fish. Instead of scalps, they talked of shrubs and trees, which had been brought to their valley to provide fruit and berries, pleasurable to the tongue, and had been planted close to their encampment, to be gathered without effort. "How do you keep your people busy?" asked Raki. "If life is so easy for them, don't they quarrel amongst themselves?" "If one of us is quarrelsome, he is told to go away until he has defeated the demon which tried to make him bring discord to the watchfire." "What happens if he refuses to go?" I said. "He does not refuse," said Smiling Valley gently. "It is against our laws, and if he disobeys, then we have a feast to forget the sorrow we feel because of one of us has been disobedient." "Does he mind your feeling sorry?" "No, he does not mind," said Smiling Valley with the same gentleness. "Or, if he minds, he does not worry us, for he is dead. It is the only sin which is punished by death among our people, the sin of deliberately making other people unhappy. It is our first law. For happiness makes people have pains in the belly and brings many kinds of sicknesses, and then they weep and grow thin and die." "But you haven't yet told us how you keep busy," said Raki. "We think of the past or of the future or of today, whichever be more pleasant. If they are all of equal excellence, we think of all three at the same time." We did not ask the Smiling Valley to come to our encampment, for we knew that our legends would be shocking to them. They were people who would be horrified to hear that we thought it better to run than to walk than to stand still, to stand than to lie down. We thought it gave merit to eat as little as possible, to climb a cliff where there are the fewest handholds, to run until you drop with exhaustion. These stories would not inspire them with admiration, but with sorrow and foreboding for a tribe so foolish that it must surely disappear from the earth. As we walked back to our camping ground, Raki said, "They have time to think, Piyannah. We need not follow them in being fat or lazy, but we need time to think. Our winter is too long and cold. It's difficult to think when you are cold, except of how to keep warm and of whether your belly will ever feel comfortable full again. And so much of our summer is spent in preparing for the winter." Yes, we all need time to think, long thoughts, which are like the pinion feathers by those whose strength a bird can fly. "Piyannah, we will take our people south, where they can learn that endurance is not all a man needs before he can be welcomed into the land beyond the sunset." "Yes, Raki," I said, "we will go south." That was a lovely chapter. I'm wishing all a lovely lazy day.